Hey everyone, it's Saul Mulroney from Johannesburg, South Africa, and it's great to connect with you today. And I really appreciate you watching this video, wherever you're watching it, wherever you are in the world, and whichever website, if it's YouTube or wherever it is, just enjoy it. And I'm going to be speaking today to Nic Cementa, and I want to add some value. Really, I'm also grabbing this opportunity to speak to Nic because he's a fascinating guy, and I met him in San Diego, and I've been watching some of his videos. And we're going to just pick Nic's brain for a few moments. So, Nic, thanks so much for talking to me today, and I really do appreciate the few minutes you've given me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy to be here. As you know, Saul, I think you're a great dude. We have dadness in common, and you know the complications sometimes of being a full-time worker, also launching things and raising kids, and the difficulties therein. It's a fun game, isn't it?
It is a fun game. I really think that, like, it's an illusion, you know, like the whole of life is an illusion, and but you know, we get certain opportunities, and I'm sure, like, you would agree that, that, like, obviously, like, the biggest growth has been from difficult times and when you rebound, and we only move usually when we're uncomfortable. And you know, I want to just discuss a few things with you. Is that you put out your I think it was your third video, you said, and you put out a video today on Facebook, and you gave over some of your thoughts and stuff that's going through your mind. And you know, for people that want to follow you, they'll be able to, I'm sure that they would be able to get a deep background about who you are. But you know, just like your story up to now, your brief story. You're a young guy, you're living in the USA. Just tell us who you are and, like, how did you get to where you are right now?
Well, I'm a young dude, I guess. I mean, I feel like an old man sometimes. I'm 30 years old, but I realize that still makes me very young. I've been at this for a long time. I got into sales when as soon as I was old enough to get the paperwork from my school to go get a job. Like, before I was even old enough to get a job, I already had gotten a job. And I had ended up in sales at a really young age, and just kind of understood, like, hey, if I want to write my own paycheck as a young person, the best way to do it is to sell stuff, because then I'm in charge of my paycheck. And I spent what felt like a long time through the rest of high school and the beginning of college just selling things for other people. And I really, really took to it and loved doing it. And then after like a year and a half of college, I dropped out to go help my brother run a web development company and like build out a sales operation with him. And we ended up pivoting the entire company away from web development and into financial services that year. And you know, I was like a 19, 20-year-old kid. I would wake up in my pajamas, go downstairs, make coffee, go down another flight of stairs onto a sales room in the basement, and just sell for 10 hours a day. And you know, in 3 years of doing that, we made Inc. magazine's fastest growing business in America. And him and I parted ways because they were headed towards, you know, being a big corporate entity. And at that time, I just did not fit into that environment. And for the first time, I literally had a business grow out of where I was comfortable. So I was like, okay, look, we don't really fit together anymore. I'm this weird kind of hippie that can sell stuff for you that you like, that's your brother, but I don't really want to leave the basement. I don't really want to deal with people, and I don't really want to have to deal with structure and stuff. So maybe it's best if we just kind of part ways. So we did. And I went into advertising because they were willing to let me do whatever I wanted. You know, they were like, hey, if you can sell, you can do whatever you want here. You can be drunk, you can be high, you can leave at 3 o'clock. As long as you hit your numbers, we don't care what you do. And it was like the first time I had ever seen a big business, like a business that was making millions of dollars, that had that attitude of being like, hey, I don't care about anything you guys do, just so long as you make us our money. And I really liked it there a lot, and I rose there really fast. Like, I started off on like a small side project as like a temporary hire. And then within a year, I was running a department and had been moved from the suburbs to the downtown area. And I had my own office. It was awesome. And I stayed there for about 2 years until I found out that I kind of got to the point where I realized that my employer wasn't doing anything that I couldn't do without him. and I was giving him 90% of the money we were making, and none of the staff was happy. And so one night I got all of my staff together, and I was like, how would you guys feel about mutinying? And they were like, what do you mean mutiny? I was like, well, we run one publication in this giant company. Why don't we just change the name, take all the advertisers, and go start somewhere else? And they're like, we can do that? I'm like, well, there's nothing in our contract that says we can't. Like, you guys just have to want to do this. And, many drinks later, we all made a pact to quit the next morning together, and we quit and started Boosh Magazine shortly thereafter, and we built that to 50 campuses and almost 500,000 subscription readers in about a year and a half. And that's when I realized.
What is that Boosh Magazine?
That was literally a fraternity magazine full of dick and fart jokes and titties for 18 to 24-year-old dudes with money. And advertisers loved it. Wow. So
how much did someone need you? How much were they paying to purchase it?
It was free if you wanted to read it, but to get an ad in it was, we had about 6,800 was a full page ad.
Sure, that's a lot of money. Right.
So at the time, to us, we thought we had low pricing. I had come from a background where a full page ad was 14 grand. So to me, we were a startup, and that was a good price. Nowadays, with print being as dead as it is, and it's funny to say that only 5 years later, print has died so much more in the last 5 years that there's really no, I don't know anybody charging that for a full page.
Right, but so you went and you started that, and then from there?
I was with my two partners there for, like I said, about a year and a half. And one day, my partner and the financier behind the whole project, the guy who paid for everything, sits me down and is like, I don't run this business. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, yeah, but I'm the president of this business. And I don't even know, who any of our customers are or who our employees are. It's my money tied up in this, and I need to be running it. And I'm like, okay, so take a more active role. He goes, that's the thing. I'm ready to take a more active role, and I've been talking to my girlfriend, and she thinks the only way I'm going to do this is if I get rid of you. And I was like, wait, you can't do that. He's like, no, technically I have the right. And after 24 months, he couldn't do it, but as long as he did it before 24 months of the business being around, he had the right to exercise a buyout clause and could forcibly buy me out of the business. So he forcibly bought me out of a magazine that I started, and it took him about, I'd say, 6 months to run it into the ground. And that was a weird experience to kind of watch. I sat on the sideline and just kind of watched it die. It was like a Viking funeral. It was there it goes, out into the water, set ablaze. My dreams and hopes are on that vessel. And yeah, at that point, I realized that I didn't want to publish stuff.
When was this that he ended up messing up the company?
2006, 2007, I want to say. Maybe 08. I think it was 08, yeah. It was probably 07, the end of 07, that he gave me the news. And by the middle of 08, that thing was gone.
And he obviously wasn't as good a salesperson like you are, right?
He wasn't a good salesperson. He wasn't a good writer. He wanted to do the jobs of the people who were doing the jobs well to prove he could do them. I'd never seen that before. It was really weird for me to watch. It was I don't understand why you're doing this. You have people who are competent and capable. Why are you taking responsibilities away from them to try to do things you don't know how to do?
Well, is he your age, or is there an age gap?
He was older. He was an older dude. Not much, but maybe 7, 8 years older than me.
Okay. We'll come back to that just now. That's interesting. And then from there, what happened?
From there, I realized that I didn't want to start another thing for a while, so I started I took a job with another advertising and publishing firm, and that's when I met my wife, and I did that for a while, and I started doing some consulting work on the side, and I had never intended to get back into consulting, but it seemed like no matter what I did, I would always get inquiries where people were like, hey, I'll pay you money to solve this problem. And it would be like, well, I can solve that problem, but are you going to actually pay me? And am I going to have to deal with a bunch of crap? And I was very reluctant about getting back in the trading my time and my thought for dollars business. But I was like, you know what? It's better than working for a paycheck, I suppose. So I started doing that again, and I got busier and busier, and then I started getting calls on my cell phone while I was supposed to be at the other office, and I kept like having to leave to go take calls for other monies, and they were getting to be bigger deals than I was making at my company that I was working for. So I was like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to stick around. And they moved me to another department, and I fixed a problem there, and I was like, hey, you guys, why don't you pay me money to just solve your problems instead of paying me as an employee? And they called me into a meeting that afternoon to discuss my proposal of moving myself from their employee to their consultant, and they presented me with a pink slip for my insolence, apparently. So, word of advice, don't go to your employer and tell them you now want to be their vendor, unless you have a really good plan and they like you a lot. Apparently it's really insulting to be like, hey, I don't want to work for you, but you should hire me to fix stuff in the business.
Okay, so how long were you there before you left?
I was at that place for about 2 years. I really liked it there. I worked, it was publishing and advertising. I knew the business really well. And when I went and left that, I took a partner and I opened a creative incubator in the city, and we started helping like artists and brands and videographers, like creative types, get businesses off the ground. And that was probably the most fulfilling work I ever did. But I couldn't keep doing it because the baby was born, and we had, I couldn't just hang out and be an altruist and just help people when I had a kid to feed. So it abruptly had to find a time for its end, and I went back into full-time consulting after that. Shortly afterwards, I met Maria, and that's when, both of our careers changed pretty much forever. So ever since then, it's been about 2.5 years now that Maria and I have been together in terms of the business, and I wouldn't trade her for anything. The woman has made me more efficient. She's made me more focused. She's made me more driven. She's a powerhouse, man, and she's taught me a lot. And I can honestly say that I was good at my job before I met Maria. I became great at my job because of Maria.
Wow. Okay, so you've been through a journey. I mean, like all of us, you've been through a journey. You're 30 years old. You said you're 30, yeah. Right? 30 years old. So, I mean, when you graduated from high school, you were like 18. What did you think? I mean, do you remember? Do you remember what? I mean, what did you think back on graduation that you were going to do? I mean, it's interesting to just think about that for a moment. Did you have anything planned out? Has it been completely opposite to what you thought? I mean, just your quick feelings on that. I'd be quite interesting. I'd be quite interested about that.
So when I was graduating high school, I thought I was going to start some type of sales-based business. Like that's what I knew. Like I was 18 years old, and me and two buddies from high school were talking about like, well, what is the cheapest we could buy computer components for, and like who can we sell them to, and like we were looking at like what can we get and resell. And I didn't expect to end up years later just being in the web marketing business and the website and integrated marketing business. I just knew that I could sell, and as long as I focused on selling something, I was going to keep making money. But you have to keep in mind that even doing something as simple as selling Cutco knives when I was in high school, I worked for them part-time, and I used to pull down a couple grand a week selling kitchen knives. Like, all I knew about sales was as long as I was doing that, I was going to be making money, and I didn't have to think about money. I just had to think about selling.
Interesting. And I'd like to ask you your dad and, I mean, the family that you grew up in, like economically, what sort of upbringing did you have? Because I asked that because in terms of like the sales, I found that so interesting that you that you're such a good salesperson. I mean, did you grow up in a home that encouraged money, or how was the talk around the home about money and that when you were young?
Always, that's all they ever talked about. You know, my dad was interesting. He was an alcoholic, and he was it was very, very brilliant, but he was always kind of like foggy. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't present and like spending time with us. He was just kind of like this brilliant dude who, when he would come home on the weekends, would just get obliterated. But like you knew that whatever it was that he did when he wasn't around us was super like stressful and intelligent and difficult. And he was on the engineering team that designed double stack trains. So when you see like two intermodal containers on a single train car, you know, like when you see them stacked up too high, he was on the team that designed that technology. I mean, the man had multiple PhDs. He had his JD. He was a brilliant, brilliant dude. He was just very tormented. And my mother was also very well educated, and her father had money, and her father was a non-English speaking immigrant who came here during the Great Depression and made himself into a millionaire. So like any excuses given to my grandfather on my mother's side about like, hey, I don't know how to be successful, he just kind of looks at you like, you serious? I had no dad. I had to raise my sister and brother and take care of my mother during the Great Depression, and I'm a millionaire. No, I will not give you any money. No, I will not give you any help. Go out there and figure it out. So, I mean, he was an awesome guy though, because he would give you advice, and he would tell you a lot of things. But yeah, the tone about money was always, you can't do anything if you don't have it, and if you want freedom, you have to have money. But you know, the other undertone to it was my mother and father had money my whole life growing up, and neither of them were ever happy. So it was like somewhere between having money and not having money is where happiness lies, and I wasn't really sure where it was. And so my attitude about it was always like, I was never a saver, I was always a maker. You know, they're like, oh, there's spenders and there's savers, but I was different, because like, I don't know how to explain that. I'm still kind of that way. It's like if I need money, I don't think about like, oh, how am I going to save money so I can have that money? I just go say, okay, well, how am I going to make that because I need that? And then I just go make it. Like I don't understand the mentality of people. I guess I do understand it, but I don't live by that mentality of if you need something or you want something, you have to like save and calculate and plan. Okay, go ahead.
And are your parents alive now?
My mom and I are still very close. She's an awesome grandma. My dad and I have not spoken in over a decade.
Okay. Well, sorry about that. But, you know, it's just interesting. Look, I mean, what I admire about you is that you, first of all, I like people with the story that it isn't a straight line to the top. You've been through a lot of different stuff. From when I met you, you seemed very genuine, and you know you've got a special soul about you, and it's really great to see a guy like you that's been in advertising. So you've been in that side. And I'd like to just relate to you from talking a little bit about the work where we came to know each other, and just getting a bit of insights for value, really, for me and for anyone that's listening to this. With the internet, as you say, and you come back to now even to consulting, and you talked in your video today about like really having a system with your advertising and having that integrated system. And I've seen the funnels that you've drawn up, and it's just really it's planning your business out. And as you said, it's like if one watches, for example, Shark Tank, it's all about the numbers. It's like if you say to someone with money, you know, this is why I need your money, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Most rich people are looking to actually invest. And what's interesting, and you know, I'll tell you, Nick, is I've been reading Jordan Belfort's book. I've had the book for a while, but called, you know, The Wolf of Wall Street, and I really, really admire him because he's also a salesman, and he says nothing happens before sales get made. And he said that story aside, but he said that he knew that the brokerage was going to make so much money. Two facts. First of all, the first fact that they're rich people and they want to make money and they want to invest their money. Rich people do genuinely like that, which I do agree. And then he said that if he gave people a script and the right training and the right motivation, those people could get on the phone and sell. And like in your financial services business there that you grew, were you doing actual sales, actual cold calls, and how did you handle that rejection? How did you, like when most people fail at that, how were you able to be so strong at sales? I want to just understand that.
So like, I've thought about this a lot, right? And I don't care. Like, so when I was a kid, I would move around a lot, you know what I mean? And I would make new friends, and I was just kind of, I got really comfortable, it was hard for me to be myself around people I knew, but it was super easy for me to be myself and be comfortable around new people. And the reasoning behind that was if they didn't like me, I had convinced myself as a kid that if someone doesn't like you, they'll avoid ever seeing you again, so who cares? So as a result, when I gravitated into sales, I kind of already had that mentality of if someone doesn't like you, they're never going to see you, so why do you care? And then when I got into phone sales, and it was like, man, they're just never going to see you, period, so who cares? It was like these are faceless things on the end of a telephone that either we're going to have a great conversation and they're going to like me, or we're going to have a terrible conversation and they're going to hate me. But regardless of that, once I hang up the phone, if they hated me, I never have to talk to that person again. So their opinion of me is nil. So I kind of developed the thick skin because of that. It was literally a direct correlation. It was, I feel nothing because I know that you not liking me is meaningless.
And what were you selling over the phone?
Back at the time, and here's the thing, so when I got into hardcore sales, and when we started our company in financial services, we were selling credit card processing. At the time, that made me less popular than like an ambulance chaser or an insurance salesman. Like, I was literally the worst, because as soon as you file your business, guys selling credit card machines and credit card processing would start calling you 10, 20 a day. So the second I was like, hey, I'm calling from a bank, they were like, listen, asshole, I've already talked to 50 of you today. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Because there's no one like me, number one. And number two, I'm really sorry that you're having a bad day. What can I do to make it better? And I would have fun with it, because people were, the worse it got, the more we enjoyed it. That was the really sick part. Back in the day when my brother and I were super close and we used to sell together, we used to like entertain each other off of people's negativity. So like if somebody got really nasty on the phone, we would literally put them on speaker and then just goat them into getting angrier and angrier to entertain each other. I remember when we were selling, this one guy gets on the phone and he's like, I'll tell you what I think of credit cards, and he's like screaming into the phone, and my brother goes, so you intend to never take them in your business? And the guy's like, yeah, I intend to never take them. And he's like, so are you going to revert to the barter system? Because I would love to come in with 2 chickens and a string of beads and get my hair cut. And the guy just lost his mind, and instead of getting, instead of getting upset that this person wasn't buying what we were selling, we just found a way to kind of enjoy and pass the time. And that's what made internet marketing so exciting when I really kind of realized what you guys were doing, is that you're using the internet to skip over those conversations. Instead of talking to the maniacs that don't want to talk to you, you just filter them out. So by the time you actually get anybody through a funnel to talk to you, you're not talking to crazy people. You're not talking to angry people. You're not cold calling leads that would rather take a fork and jam it in their own eye than hear your value proposition. These are people who have been kind of filtered and combed to the point where you know that as long as you are open in your conversation and you're genuine, you're going to have a positive conversation. They may not be ready to work with you, but almost every conversation, if these people actually need what you're selling, can be a positive one.
Right, that's 100%. I mean, you're right that it's that mindset. I like what you say about the sales, and I would have liked to see that young Nick there in selling those financial services. And every day especially in the USA and in South Africa to a much smaller degree here, but in all over the world, there are calls that are being made from these outbound call centers every single day, and they've got their numbers, and that's what, like you said on your video on Facebook, it's like very cool, and it's collected, and because you know that if you got if you're calling, for example, 150 people a week, that's 30 a day, and you close, and you can connect with X amount, and then you can speak to them and close them. You know, obviously you can't control if someone buys, and you can't control if you get hold of someone even, but you can control those dials. And you know, for me, it's just so exciting because I know that, like, for me, I'm also blessed with sales, and it's very important for me, and I need to do this almost daily, is the mindset, Nick, is that I believe, like you believe, from what you're telling me, and I knew it before, but I didn't know even to this degree, is that sales is a very, very noble thing to do, and anyone that sells anything, it is really such a noble act to do, because nothing happens without sales. And, you know, just to touch on like what I've been doing, and I'd like to, you know, turn around to you, so we're going to give some real value now, and I'm excited about this. I know we've only got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to pick it up a pace now. You know, so we put the context who you are. Most people know who I am. And listen to this, Nick. I finished task school in 1995, and then I went to work as a stockbroker for 6 years. I enjoyed the stockbroking, but then it was actually much less regulated, and I needed to. It was more inbound calls. They actually weren't allowing us to cold call because of the legislation around the stock exchange, etc. So anyway, I had my first child, and then I went to work selling insurance, life insurance and investments for 12 years. And as you were saying, it's like no one likes to hear worse than anyone from that insurance company. But I was buying leads, and I was making sales, and I really enjoyed it. And I closed a lot of sales, over 600 clients that I left with. When I left, that were still in the books, which is, you know, a lot came off the books over the years, on and off. But what I really wanted to do, Nick, and I came across like Bill Hugel, who we know, and I came across the Warrior Forum, and I read a book by this guy called Dr. Joe Vitale. And Dr. Joe Vitale in the book was talking about packaging your own knowledge. And then we came across like Bill, and we came across the Warrior. I came across Bill, and I came across Warrior Plus, and I really saw it's like so interesting. You know, here's this forum of people that want to make money, making money on the internet. This is a guy's dream. He does CPA marketing. You're good at Facebook. You've got a funnel. But it's so interesting. So I find out I've been doing it now for, listen to this, I've been doing it now for 13 months. Today was my 7th WSO of the Day award, which is a huge award in itself, but 7 goes way beyond my even wildest dream. And I can tell you where the penny dropped was, as soon as I realized after like 2 months of being there, I just realized that people are actually prepared to pay for packaged information. And you know, just like this latest WSO, the Warrior Special offer, the latest product, is that I saw that Periscope was going to be big. And what I did, I literally went and I spent like 2 hours, and I copied and I pasted like 15 articles onto a Word document, and then I rewrote everything, and then I checked all the facts, and I put it all into my own voice, and people were prepared, close to 1,000 sales, to spend $5-6 on that. And all of that is free information, and even if you go spend a few hours on YouTube, it's all there. So I just want to like relate that to you, and I'd just like to hear your input, because you've come in, you're also seeing a bit of a crazy world, and sometimes like you've got internet marketer people that are buying courses that they're not even implementing in their own business, but they're promoting it to their clients, but they don't realize also how valuable packaged information knowledge is. And, you know, I just want to get your input. So for anyone that's listening, I'm sure if you like sort of get what I'm asking, I'd like to hear your input on this. I've gone a bit of a round in circle, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. So I would say this. I would say that the ultimate monetization of what you guys are learning every day is that there are 2 sets of people that don't yet have a symbiotic relationship that should. And that's regular business owners and internet marketers. And I find it really interesting because the internet marketing world, you guys all kind of feed each other info products about internet marketing instead of looking at that other group, that group of business owners who don't understand at all what you do, but they make products and have services. And you guys all craft info products and info services that would help them sell their actual products and services outside of that space.
Correct.
But for some reason, the info marketer space is like a self-perpetuating loop. It's like looking at Orin from the Never-Ending Story. It's this snake eating its own tail where you guys are remarketing to each other instead of getting together and saying like, hey, we could change business on a global scale by going as internet marketers and saying to all of the businesses out there, this is how we do what we do. You need to be doing what we do to each other, to everyone. You need to learn how to filter. You need to learn how to educate. You need to learn how to capture. You need to learn how to sell. And you need to learn how to build funnels, because people are not responsive to interruption marketing and to advertising anymore. So they don't want to be interrupted. They don't want to see your billboard. They don't care about your bench. They're not responding to skywriting, but they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on Google, they're in all of the places where these forums where you know where to find them as internet marketers, and all of these businesses can't connect with those people. And I think that there's a time coming when all of the internet marketers are going to realize that their content is more valuable to regular business owners and executives and marketers and salespeople than it is to other internet marketers.
Right, exactly.
Like, we all know this. Like, that's the funny thing, is that I show my diagrams to an internet marketer, and they're like, yeah, duh, that's what we do. And I'm like, no shit. Do you know what happens when I show this to a business owner? They poop. They don't even know how to handle it, because they're like, this is what they're doing? I could do this. And it's like, yes, you could. Why you didn't know this is what they're doing, I will never understand. And one of the best things that was said to me was by Bill himself. Hugo tells me, I tried making this stuff super simple and taking it to business owners, and they didn't get it, so I moved on. Like, so you tried this once. He's like, yeah, I literally tried, like, telling them, get an iPad, get a computer, get a this, get a that, and that's how easy it is to get your internet marketing going for your business, and I couldn't get them to get it or to convert. And I asked him a simple question. I'm like, did you explain to them in your terms or in their terms? And he goes, well, I explained it in my terms. I'm like, yeah, they don't get your terms. The reason they didn't get it is because you went in there and talked about traffic and conversion ratios and CPAs, and they just simply don't get that. So when you go in there and say, would you like more leads? Or would you like more sales? Sure, yeah, I get that. Would you like to know how you can find customers that are happy to do business with you on the internet? Yes, of course. Would it be nice if parts of your selling process happened on the internet? Absolutely. When your salespeople make a sale, do they make the sale on the first call, or do they have to talk to a potential client several times? Well, several times. So if I could automate that process online and have it so something is talking to that potential client several times before they contact you or you contact them, do you think your sales would work better? Well, absolutely. Great. That's what internet marketing is. That's in the terms they understand. But see, we all sit around talking about, hey, my cost of customer AC is real low, and I got this going on, and I'm about to pop a JV offer, and, you know, like, I've got a new product launch coming, and to them it's different lingo. It's lingo they don't understand. And they don't want to learn new lingo. Actually, they probably do, but it makes it seem challenging, because it's like going up to a Korean person and speaking Japanese at them. They're like, yeah, I kind of know the vowel structure. I get the general idea of what you're saying, but it's not my fucking language.
Yeah, completely. Look, it's so interesting, and we can't cover this in one conversation, but I just want to give it over to you, and hopefully we can have a further conversation. But it's so interesting, Nick, as you said, because what I did, just to take this example of yesterday, is that I curated all different sources, and then I put it into a consumable page, 56-page PDF. And internet marketers, everyone that buys from the Warrior Plus and JB Zoo, and these guys should have said, wow, this is a new product on Periscope. We know Periscope is big. It's owned by It's owned by Twitter. I should start scoping ASAP. But I can tell you, I know for a fact that probably 70% of the affiliates didn't even read it, okay? Then they're promoting it to their clients, and they themselves aren't going to get onto Periscope yet. And exactly what you're saying is that if you can pick up a PDF, or a small few videos, it really can change your life. I mean, if one literally does jump onto Periscope now and you start putting out original content and you are consistent with it, it will pay off over time. Like Gary Vaynerchuk says, you're not going to see it in the social immediate, but it will certainly pay off. And I think, as you said first, I mean, for me, am I hearing you right in two things? First of all, I think the internet marketers and the guys that like Bill Hugel that we know, like not all, but people in our community, I think we don't value our information enough. So people charge low prices, and also we don't value how much we know, because like I know in South Africa, I've said to a few friends, like, they see me like putting stuff on Facebook, and they say, wow, what's that product? Is it like a pyramid scheme? I said, no, it's like an information product. So I said to like some mates of mine, have you ever heard of Periscope? 8 out of 10 have never heard of it. Other ones like heard of it on the radio. I'm saying, I know Periscope. I've curated the content. Again, it's to value that we know so much more than anyone else. And also, again, it's like the whole process already made me a couple $1,000s. It's given me a credit in the marketplace. So it wasn't even difficult to do. Am I right in saying that I've achieved so much so quickly? Maybe because I took the action. I've taken outrageous action, and also because I'm like thinking about it maybe a little bit more calmly, where people, instead of like just thinking, what is how many sales have I made today? There are millions of people that could potentially benefit from a new Periscope product for a few dollars, rather than just the few thousand that go to Warrior Plus. And I'll just end off on one statement. I put Warrior Plus into Comcast, and then I put it into another site. Comcast and Alexa do not have any information even for Warrior Plus because it's so small. So the internet's got billions of hours on Facebook, and we worried about a teeny little pond.
Well, you know what? I came across an alarming statistic the other day, Saul, and that's this. 272 million Americans have a Facebook profile. Do you know why that's terrifying? There are only 300 million Americans. Wow. That means, what, like 95% of our country has a Facebook profile? They may not all be active, but that means Facebook is ubiquitous. It doesn't mean that Facebook is like a trending fad. That's ubiquitous. The reason Mark Zuckerberg is worth $41 billion is because it's ubiquitous. It's because literally almost every man, woman, and child in this country, in my country, in the U.S., is on Facebook right now. And with integration, that means they can track your demographics, your location, your interests, and your behaviors. So if we can know exactly who's out there, and we can filter who's out there, then taking that time to craft your user story, and I think that's, so like I said, the whole thing with me, and the reason I think agile marketing and sales funnels work, is because the first thing I do is focus on who needs me and why they need me and what problem I solve, and I build my funnels middle out. We've talked about this. It's always middle out for me. It's like, first we want to figure out what do we solve and how does it make their life better and who they are, as a I need so that. We write a user story and we build from the user story. So if an internet marketer needs this service, why do they need it? If you don't know it, if you haven't read the information and you're just pumping a JV down to your downline that you haven't even read yet, then you're not going to have the result that you want, because you don't even know if they need it. You're not taking any time to filter down and say, okay, why do these people need it, and is my messaging crafted around, you need this because it will solve your problem. And if you don't take the time to do that and you don't get the result you want, you have no one to blame but yourself. User stories are a completely business commonplace across the board for 2 decades now. And they're used in the business analytics section. They're used by
by analysts, they're used by accountants, they're used by software developers, they're used by project managers. The only people who have never used user stories, and this is a crying shame, and I'm sad that I'm the first one, is the sales guys and the marketers. We don't sit down and write user stories. We don't sit down and say, I need, so that about our customers. The guys in the IT department are doing it. The guys in the business analytics department are doing it. They're sitting down and figuring out why customers need the business. So why, if we're on the front line, if we're the ones doing the selling and the marketing, aren't we sitting down to say, why do they need us? And that's where everybody's getting lost. And that's the thing, is that if you don't like what you do because your customers don't respond to you, it's because you don't understand why they need you in the first place. That's what my video is all about today, dude. It's simple. It's that if they need you and you know why they need you and you speak to their needs, you're indispensable to them. And if you're indispensable to them, then your relationship with those clients is totally different. You're appreciated, you're happy, and you're growing. It's really that simple. And I had one of the guys in my incubator this weekend ask me to please stop telling him everything is so simple. and then today he's like, so a lot of that stuff clicked for me over the weekend, and you're right, it really is just that simple. I'm like, it really is just that simple. I know I use that term a lot and say, hey, it's simple. But it is. It's just shifting your focus. You know, you're having success with Periscope because you took the time to see why you would need it. You know your audience is people like you, so if it's the need you have, then you're going to sell them to it based on how fulfilling that need for you has changed how you're working, and they can relate to that then and will become a customer. Therefore, the JV launch goes well. Easy, right? You understand why they need this thing.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me that we're still trying to do this in any other way than the way I've been talking about it, because it seems like what I've come up with, and I don't even know if I can take credit for it sometimes, because it seems like it's just the logical way to do it. It seems logical. It seems like sitting down and saying, okay, well, who are the people that would have this problem, and filtering the internet for those people through Facebook or Google or whatever, just filtering for people who have that problem, educating them on why what the problem was to me, how I solved it, why I sell the solution, who the people who have bought the solution from me are, and how it's improved their life. That's what a landing page really is. Let's be honest. Has you ever written a landing page that wasn't that same format, Saul? Ever?
Sure.
Never. That's every landing page anyone has ever written in the history of the internet marketing world. It's always, here's the problem, here's our solution, here's other people who have used our solution, here's what we sell our solution for, and here's our irresistible offer that you have to take right now. Same thing every time. My story, your story, identifiability, social proof, which is your testimonial section, and then your offer. It's 5 sections. Every single landing page is the same 5 sections. So if they're all built to hit the same mechanical point, then we should focus on that point first, because that's where everything goes. And if we start with a user story and understand the need, the problem that's being solved, and the importance of that solution, then all of our messaging is always going to hit home with the traffic we're buying. You know, it's silly, but you learned this faster than most people. This is why you have 7 WSOs a day. And that's because of the world you came from. You came from being a broker, which it was, you had that mentality of I need, so that. So when you would get on the phone to sell something, you realized that, okay, I'm selling an investment opportunity to somebody with money, and they need a specific return so that they can do this and this. And you would jump into their shoes before you would get on the phone with them. When you sold insurance, you said, okay, well, as a family man, I need these types of insurance so that I have peace of mind, and you put yourself in their shoes and you understood their need, and that's how you sold. And even today, as an internet marketer, when you endorse a product like Periscope, you're not just grabbing an offer based on the financial gain. You're saying, hey, I used this, I needed this has changed me by solving a problem for me, so I'm going to sell it based on that need cessation of my own, and putting myself into their shoes and understanding that as a internet marketer, I need Periscope so that I have a better understanding of my audience, and that's how I'm going to sell it. And every time you've done that, Saul, you've been successful, right?
Correct. Look, I mean, as we're saying, is that we don't even know what tomorrow holds, and I know that you're a very deep thinker, and I really appreciate the time that you've given me. Let's just talk, just so I'd like to be clear on this for myself and for anyone that watches this. You're crafting out now your new venture. And it's attached to an incubator. I like the word incubator because it's, think of a little baby in keeping warm and growing protected in that incubator. And you've got, I mean, I guess how many marketing books you've read over the years and courses and products. I'm sure you've spent like thousands and thousands of dollars, some good, some bad, but you've taken basically everything that you've learned, plus your life experience, plus everything, and you put it now into you've packaged it essentially. So I'd like to ask you, your agile marketing. Firstly, when someone works with you, like, what is that time frame basically? I mean, the time frame, and and with the incubator, is that you said that out of all the different stuff that you did, that was the most fulfilling because you saw something growing. I would imagine you were like, it wasn't just like an investment commission. It was, you were seeing people through ups and downs, and then celebrating with their victories, and therefore when they had setbacks. So you're like, when you meet someone, what do you do to help them?
Well, the program that we've put together right now is kind of just teaching any business owner how to adopt agile marketing into their business. And it's 4 weeks, and it's 4 sections, and the first week is just kind of introing them to all of the basics about internet marketing and sales funnel and funnel construction. And during that period, all of the exercises and the information is focused on user story writing and understanding kind of funnel systems. And the second week is like funnel construction, and we actually use all of the information from the exercises where we were building our user stories, and we take those and we craft out all of these funnel pages based on the different types of users and the different types of needs and problems that we solve. The third week we focus on the avatar building. So now that we have taken the time to look at our I need so that, so the I need and the so that were in our landing page build from the week before. So the third week is all focusing on the as a portion. It's just taking the time to kind of craft the ideal users and understand the locations, demographics, interests, and behaviors of your ideal customer base so that you can filter for that traffic. And then the final week is understanding the active sale bolt-ons. So things like drip marketing, capture strategies, retargeting, and lead magnets. And so by the time you walk away from this 4 weeks later, you now have you have all of the tools and the knowledge and the understanding of how and why to craft really focused cessation-based marketing and to operate online sales funnels as easily as you would use your Facebook or your email. So
are those 4 weeks, just interesting of how you do it, are they 4 weeks in a row, or do you take like a week off in a row?
4 weeks in a row.
So, I mean,
but it's not like I'm with you every day for 4 weeks. It's you get a chunk of content, and then we talk a couple of times during that week to kind of go through with you, and then the next chunk of content comes. So I would say,
are you one-on-one, or is it in a group? Is it in a group? It's in a group setting.
Currently, I give everybody about 2 hours of one-on-one attention every week, and I release all the content as a group. So everybody gets the content at the same time. And then I spend about 2 hours with each person one-on-one each week, making sure that they're getting through the content, understanding, and getting through the exercises, and doing a little bit of personal hand-holding.
Right. And just, I mean, we won't discuss the fees, but is it a once-off payment, or is it an ongoing payment?
It's a one-time payment. It's a program. When the program's done, there's no more payment involved.
Okay. So it's a good investment, and
like I said, what's nice about it is that it comes with the tools and the training and the videos. So the other really nice thing is that all of my training stuff used to be in person, and when it was in person, it was really hard for people. What my biggest complaint was that you talk really fast and you give a lot of content. So we've moved everything now into exercises and videos so that they can kind of ingest it at their own speed. And that's been really, really helpful to most people.
Awesome. Well, so that's so interesting. Nick, I really appreciate you speaking to me today. I've enjoyed it. I think we both, we connected intellectually on a different level today, and all of this fits into sales, and it fits into everything. And I must just repeat is that I admire you, and I know that you become one of my favorite people because of, and like we identify with sales, and because I think it's so noble. That's why, that's why even in internet marketing, where all the tools are available, and why I know one of the few that have, because I learned from sales the hard way. I loved selling insurance, but I don't. Right now, I'm happier to be distributing my own intellectual capital than a big insurance company. But I wouldn't have known that until I was sick of selling someone else's intellectual capital. So I feel just very grateful, and it comes across in what I do. And I think that I'm blessed with sales, and you are also, and it's a great blessing. And that's why maybe in Google you may have someone with an MBA, and then you have analytic people, and then you have, like, if you've got a tax issue, you can go to a guy who's the best tax accountant. That's not me, and it's certainly not you. And we could pay those people good money for what they do. We bring another slice to the game as salespeople. And as you said, I mean, sales is the most important thing. Without sales, that whole advertising company wouldn't even have existed. And companies that grow, they realize that the salespeople should earn more. I mean, more than anyone else. Salespeople in top, like Merrill Lynch and Deutsche Bank, they earn even more than CEO because they're bringing in the big deals. And
I'll say this. I'll never forget one of my first companies, and I remember hearing this kid we had. He was our IT director, and he got in an argument with one of my best sales guys, and he goes, "You're just a piece of shit salesman, and you're replaceable." And I remember sitting him down and being like, "Let me tell you who's replaceable. You are in the IT department. There are 1,000 people that do the exact same thing that you do. That man is essentially shoveling coal into the furnace that drives the engine of our business. And the better he is at selling, the faster he can shovel that coal. Without coal in our engine, this company does not move forward. The sales guys are literally doing the back-breaking labor of every day getting up and shoveling that coal into the steam engine of your business. And simply put, if you don't respect them for that job and you get rid of the good ones, you'll stop moving forward."
Exactly. Well, Nick, you know what? I think really just that attitude alone tells me that you're going to be successful. And guys, I've been talking to Nick Sambenta. I mean, I've really enjoyed this interview. Nick, I've really, really, really enjoyed it. And for anyone that's watching this, if you want to get hold of Nick, you can check him up on Facebook. He's easy to find, or you're welcome to contact me, and I'll put you in touch with Nick if it sounds like you'd like to check out his agile marketing. It sounds awesome. And Nick, I wish you all the best of luck in the future for whatever you do. You should just be successful. I just want to leave you with one last question. If we were talking 2 years from now, so we're talking in October 2017, okay? What would you have liked to have achieved to be happy with your progress at that point?
My biggest goal is to condense the 4 weeks down into something that can be taught in a week, and to open it up to as many business owners as humanly possible. Right now, I can't handle more than 10 people in a month to go through this process because of the amount of hand-holding I have to give them. That's 20 hours a week that I got to give to people, plus the actual training bits. But I want to get to a point where I can help more than 10 people with less than 80 hours a month out of my life. And as I continue to work towards scale, I want to be, I would like to be presenting on stage at Agile 2017 and saying, we got all of these small businesses to adopt Agile methodology into their project management and their marketing, and here has been the exponential growth of adopting iterative development. And that's really, you know, we'll talk about this another time. We'll do another whole thing where you and I can just talk for like 45 minutes about how learning what iteratively developing things can do for you as a business owner and as a marketer and as everything. But it's that idea that you get out the simplest piece first, and then you grow on it and you build on it, and that you're always inspecting and improving on what you're doing. It changes everything.
Right. I like that. I like that. And for me, even like after my divorce, my brother, I just like, and I still tell myself this, is I just like want a 1% improvement every day. And then over time, it's like I looked on YouTube and I've got over 300 videos now. It's like really awesome. You know, it didn't come overnight. And that, we'll say goodbye on this point. But for anyone that's watching this, Nick, and maybe they got like less than a week till their stock orders are coming off, and maybe they're failing, or maybe they're just tired of the bullshit. Obviously, this doesn't happen overnight, but for someone that's listening to this and even like a little bit hopeless right now, what are you going to do? What are you going to leave them with? One final thought, please.
If I was going to leave you with one final thought, it would be this. Look at your time. You know, everybody spends so much time talking about money as in the business space and in the success space, and I've been a part of so many different things as a speaker, as a coach, as a trainer, as a consultant, and as a business owner. And it's always focused on your money, your money, your money. I can tell you one thing. In the last 16 years that I have actively been involved in the business world, and yeah, for 30, that's a long time. I mean, since I was 14, I've been around business people and working in businesses. I've learned that the truest statement in life is this: money and time are interchangeable, but only one is irreplaceable. And I've found dozens, if not hundreds, of ways of making money, but I still would trade it all if I found somebody who could make me more time. And there's no way to make more time. It is the single most valuable currency that you have.
Wonderful. Oh, what a good thought, and that is really just a beautiful roundup to the interview. You know, yesterday I actually watched a little Facebook video in the timeline on the owner of Alibaba, who's one of the richest guys in the world, richest man, and he actually looked sad, and he said he wishes he could get back the time that he's missed with his kids and his wife, but he's like lost it, and he actually like really seemed like a little bit sad because he can't get that back. And exactly what you say, you know, time goes, even when we look at our kids, it goes so quickly. So guys, Saul Moroney from Johannesburg, South Africa. I've really enjoyed this interview. Nick, for anyone that's watching, I just hope that you get a lot out of it and that you take action on anything that you learned today. Thanks so much.
Have a good one.